Okay, so it is 6:30, so let's start the meeting so that everyone has a chance to speak. So, good evening and welcome to our Highgate Selectboard meeting for Thursday, November 19th, 2020. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for joining us. Is there anyone on for public comment not on the agenda? Oh, there's Vern too, and Bruce.
Hi, it's Lisa. I just wanted to say hello and thank you for always inviting me.
Always happy to have you, Lisa.
Thank you.
All right, so with that, we'll start with GMT and Ms. Jen Wood.
All right. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. Thank you, everybody. So I'm going to share my screen in a minute, but I'm Jen Wood. I'm the Public Affairs and Community Relations Manager, and I can't help. I live in Grand Isle, but it's not quite the tropical look that Andreas has right now. So I'm a little jealous of that. Anyway, so I'm going to just share my screen, share a few slides to talk a little bit about GMT, who we are, and then get a little into the funding request that I sent.
Sure.
And then, want to leave the most of the time just for questions, comments, concerns. And I always like to just start and say, thank you for your service on the select board, because I know particularly in these times, it's not an easy task. So I appreciate your service there. So if you give me 1 second, I'm going to share my screen. And
anyway, so I was looking for my package today because it was I'm like, there's no package there.
All right, are you seeing the big GMT slide?
Yes.
Great. Okay. And as I go through this, one thing that I'm also, as I'm reaching out to all the different select boards, I'm trying to glean any insights, feedback, comments about what would be helpful. Part of my role is working with all of our rural towns. So it's essentially our service area minus Chittenden County, and trying to, I do these funding requests, but also just to kind of, share information. So I don't know the last time that anybody from GMT has visited you guys, but I can't always be at every town select board meeting all the time, because there's about 50 of them that I'm responsible for working with. So if there's things that you think would be helpful, whether it's a newsletter or that's going to, you don't want another thing clogging your email box, I get that too. But if you have any thoughts as we go through this or anytime, I'd be interested in that. So just briefly, in 1973, it was Chittenden County Transportation Authority, CCTA. We were created, and we are the first and only transit authority. And in 2016, we merged with the Green Mountain Transit Agency, becoming GMT. And so we provide service to Chittenden, Washington, Franklin, Grand Isle, Lamoille, and Orange counties. And we're directed by a board of commissioners of 13 members who are part of the member towns in the Chittenden district, which I'll explain a little more in a minute. So just broadly, the services that we provide, we have a number of fixed route services, commuter links, like the link bus that folks from Highgate can connect to hook up with St. Albans, link into Burlington, and then various demand response programs, lots of kind of medical oriented rides, and then different weekend grocery shopping trips, seasonal mountain service in places like Stowe and the Mad River Valley, and microtransit, which is an exciting new initiative that's going to start in January, which I'll also talk about in the last slide as well. So just to kind of give an overview of how our funding works. So this is a look at the urban district, which again is Chittenden County, and the breakdown of where we get our funds from. And so for those 13 commissioners in those 13 member towns, so we get generally 80% of our funds from the federal and state grants, and then we're required to get at least a 20% local match. And in the urban area, it works through the power of taxation. Since they're member communities, we do an assessment every year, and which is based on this called the fair share calculation, which takes into consideration census data and a number of other factors to look at and the service that each town receives, to then say, what their fair share is for that year. And then we assess, Burlington, Winooski, all the towns to say, here's what your portion is, and they're required to pay that. And so the one difference on the rural side is the breakdown of the funding is a little different, as you can see, and we get essentially the 80% funds, and we're still required to get that 20% local match. But, and that's part of my role, is working with all the towns, except, as you know, that there isn't a enforcement mechanism. There's no requirement for towns to have to pay. And so we do the same fair share calculation, and I'll share a little bit of data on that in a minute in terms of where Highgate exists. And so I just, we request the funds, and we follow the process of, right now anyway, of what a typical nonprofit does. However, we're technically, since we merged, we're technically a municipality. And we have actually not been generally requesting anywhere near or receiving near the 20% local match. And this is just a look at our most recent ridership numbers from FY19, which a big portion of that, of course, is Chittenden County, our biggest service area. And as you can imagine, it's drastically reduced right now just due to COVID and the pandemic, and us also, really encouraging only essential trips be taken, for essential rides to get to and from work, and or essential medical trips, because we have limits on the capacity of our bus to prevent or to allow for proper distancing. This is just a screen screen grab of our homepage, and I just like to make people aware that you can see the little circles with the little buses, and they're all equipped with basically tracking software. And so what on our website is one place where you can see real time where any of the buses are, and then we also have a transit app, which if you download it and you're waiting for the bus, you can see where it is in real time and not have to wait out in the cold if you have a warm place to stay while you're waiting for it to arrive.
Perfect.
So just in terms of Highgate, here's some information and numbers. So for FY20, the most recent fiscal year, there were 2,047 trips through the E&D, or Elderly and Disabled and Medicaid service, through all these different programs. And one of the things I think for towns, particularly like Highgate, and I mean, you have also a link service, but like in Grand Isle, we don't have any other service aside from Cider, who provides these medical rides, and they at least have a logo. But we've realized that for a lot of these trips, you may not actually realize that it's a GMT trip that's happening, because we don't necessarily have a decal on the volunteer driver car to say, these two people could just like their friends going wherever, but it's actually a meta. So I think that's the thing to increase visibility that the marketing team is looking at, having there be some sort of decal on the car. So it's a little bit more represented, so people can see that there actually is more of a service than might otherwise be, seen or expected in the town. And then just because of the connection that Highgate has to the Richford St. Albans commuter, that was the number of trips for the FY20 year. And so, this is my second year doing it. I started a little over a year ago, and we requested the same level funding, $950 for Highgate, which is what I requested again this year. Just definitely level funding, knowing there's many funding challenges all across the state in each town. But to give perspective, as I talked about earlier, that 20% match, if we were to ever say, what Highgate's quote unquote fair share match would be, it's actually just over $15,000. So obviously we're asking for the 950, but just like to kind of put it into perspective. Originally, we're looking at a number of different ways to kind of tackle the rural funding issue, and the commissioners are putting together a strategic plan on that. But they've talked about, before COVID, the thought was to try to, increase a little bit each year, as we do in the Chittenden County area. It's always a 3 to 5% increase. But right now we're not, it doesn't feel like the proper thing to do to request additional funding. And then just that last number on the bottom is our total ridership for the last fiscal year. So, just a couple initiatives that are underway. So, COVID response has been obviously taking the main focus, and we are fare free and have been since almost the beginning of the pandemic. And it could shift, but right now it's actually in the budget, thanks to CARES funds, through the rest of this fiscal year, which ends end of June 2021. And there's lots of different safety measures that have been put into place. That was one of the first ones, fare free, so that the rider and the bus driver don't have to be in close contact dealing with getting fares. And then actually on the bigger buses, they have boarding in the rear of the bus to provide that distance. And then there's of course lots of cleaning and sanitizing that goes on, and masks are again, of course, required. And so some of the technology upgrades, like I mentioned, we have that ability to track the buses where they are in real time. And we also have a different app for mobile ticketing called Token Transit, but that's right now not relevant since there's no fares on any of the buses. And then the microtransit pilot is what I referred to earlier, and it's going to start in January. And essentially, it's going to start in Montpelier, but there's a lot of towns with eyes on it to see if it's successful there. Maybe it can be replicated around the state. And essentially, I don't know if anybody has been to Montpelier or seen our service. We have 3 circulator routes in and around the Montpelier area. And they're fixed routes, circulator routes that are going to go away. And there'll be smaller, either van or cutaway type buses that are going to be in the place of that. And it'll be an on-demand, sort of like an Uber-esque service. So you can either call or on an app request a ride, and it will pick you up where you are and take you where you want to go. And it might get other passengers in between, but it'll be, you can get from where you want to go. You're not required to go into that fixed route, although it will be in a sort of certain distance in and around the Montpelier area. And that will also integrate with Medicaid riders. So people that are getting medical appointments will also be able to use the same service. And then there's just some stats here in terms of replacing some fleets. And we're working on electrifying the fleet. We have 2 buses right now in operation in and around the Chittenden County area that are electric. And then the typical transit strategic plan development is underway, and public transit agency safety plan, which are requirements that we have to do as part of being a transit authority. So then the next slide is a picture of the electric bus and my contact info. I guess I'll probably stop sharing my screen and pause there and see if anybody has questions.
I just have one question.
Mm-hmm.
What is a cutaway bus? I don't know that.
Cutaway. It's basically one of the smaller buses, like a half-size bus.
Okay.
If you've seen SSTA or those kind of, it's picture the big bus and cut it in half. That's what we call those. The short bus.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone have any questions? Well, we thank you for your work, because those 2,047 riders that were given medical assistance when needed is certainly appreciated.
Thank you. Yeah, and we appreciate the funding. I know that you've contributed last year, and that really does make a difference, and particularly for those Medicaid riders that need that service. So I appreciate that as well. And Heidi has my contact info. If you ever have questions or comments or whatnot, please feel free to reach out.
So Sharon, I do just have a quick comment on the funding.
Yes.
Hi, Jen. Nice
Hi.
to meet you. Thank you for taking initiative on this. I would just want to say that Green Mountain Transit did used to receive, as you were doing your spiel, I was doing some research, $3,028 from the town of Highgate. And 4 or 5 years ago, our finance committee put in place a social service appropriation policy. And that just meant that anything over $1,000 requested needed a petition from the residents of Highgate. So for future, if Green Mountain Transit is looking for a higher dollar, send you some information and getting your request back where it always had been. It's not going to guarantee it's going to go through a town meeting, but it's at least going to get your foot in the door. But I don't know who was doing your job prior. I just feel like it kind of dropped off their plate. Nothing had been requested.
Okay, yeah, because I saw that in kind of the data behind. I didn't go 3 or 4 years back, but I went a couple of years back, and it looked like for the 2 years prior to my time that nothing had been requested. So I think there was a couple of years of a gap. But yeah, no, I appreciate you mentioning that. And one thing that I put in the letter that we are trying to get select boards to consider is, since that technically we are a municipality, if there were ever the opportunity to essentially get an exemption from that. I mean, that part of the challenge of us also not requesting additional funding is because it's just me and I can't go to 50 towns and get petitions of thousands and thousands of people. So it just makes it, it's just not a kind of, it's a capacity issue. So we've been trying to contend with that as well, because I know other towns have a similar thing. If you get, you know, X number, 1,000 signatures, then you can have an increase. So it's just, that's one of the things that we struggle with. But since we're, you know, technically a municipality service like trash or whatnot, that we've tried to, you know, approach select boards to say, if you're willing to provide an exemption for that, you know, obviously that would be something.
I think at that point, the policy rewritten. I'll go back and read it, but I'll also send you everything we have. I can contact info from Heidi.
Great. Well, thank you so much. What was your first name? I see
Shelley.
Oh, Shelley. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Again, I appreciate the time, and yeah, stay safe and be well.
So Shelley, have they requested the $950?
Yes, I have that in our 2020, 2021 budget folder. I did find that this as she was giving her presentation.
So does the board want to make an exemption for GMT just like we did for the other two fund requests? So in other words,
We have to submit a new request. Right now, the request dollar amount is for $950. So I guess I would ask Jen to submit something with a different dollar amount.
oh, I thought that's what they wanted was $950.
Yes, and at $950, there's no need for an exemption.
Okay,
I was letting Jen know, she seems new in her position.
okay.
The way what GMT used to receive from the town of Highgate prior to our policy, and how she can go about getting her dollar amount back up to that amount.
And what's the number, what's the petition number or the percentage of residents, or do you have that off the top of your head?
Wendy, 5%, which is roughly 110, right?
Okay, you froze there for a second, so I didn't catch all of that. But yeah, I'll look for the email with the information. Shelley, I appreciate it.
Shelley, do we need a motion to do the $950? We're kind of lost you. Shelley,
Can you hear me?
now I can hear you.
Maybe if I stop my video, I will have better audio. I was asking Wendy, I'm pretty sure it's 5% of our registered voters, which I believe equals 110.
Shelley, you're gone again.
For the petition.
Kent has also been going in and out too, so I think we're having a tough internet night. So Jen, I would just say that Shelley will get back to you by email. And Sharon, I almost think that you don't have to make a motion at this point. Shelley is building it into the budget and it would be approved at town meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Bruce, hang on. I think Bruce had a question. Bruce?
Can't hear you.
No, Bruce, we're not getting any audio.
Aren't these meetings fun?
Oh, I love them.
Bruce? I see the yes, but I'm not very good at lip reading.
Unmute your volume, Bruce.
No, he's not muted.
Yeah.
He's just doesn't have enough bandwidth, I think.
Okay. Well, I apologize, Jen, for that, but yeah, Shelley will get that information to you, and Bruce can reach out to you with a question if he'd like to ask that to you, and we'll look forward to helping you fund a great program.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you.
too.
You too. Thank
you.
you.
Okay, so moving right along. We'll go to the Friends of Northern Lake Champlain. Kent is here for that, and Andreas.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Hi there.
Hi.
Thanks for having us tonight, and I'll get my piece said quickly as long as I've got internet. I've been knocked off twice already in the last 10 minutes, so I'll try to get this right out to you. So my name's Ken Henderson. I'm the chair of the Friends of Northern Lake Champlain. I was a dairy veterinarian in the county for over 40 years and really know Highgate very well, and have come to appreciate what your town is doing for stormwater retention, pollution control, and then especially I want to recognize a lot of the really strong small and middle-sized farms in Highgate that are doing such a great job on conservation. They're really recognized on a statewide level. So as a water quality organization, Friends is really happy to be involved in the town of Highgate. And what I'd like to do tonight is just talk about an application that the Friends has made to engage an environmental consulting firm to work with us to help look at the actual shoreline. We've actually looked at a lot of the practices on the land and in the town, in the centers, but now we want to go to the shoreline where the real action is. And we've started to do these assessments on the shoreline all around the northern arm of the lake. And so we wanted to bring that to Highgate. The purpose of the study is to complement the framework to get projects into a financial situation where we can bring help to the town in solving its problems. We're not ones to go out and find problems and then just dump it and expect money to magically appear. We're ones that are actually looking for solutions and work, and we want to be able to bring finances to the town as you're moving ahead and doing these water quality projects. And this is how we'll get these projects in the ANR project tracker, and is a first step toward getting that financing. So we'll have questions at the end, but I'd like to bring Andreas in now, who can really describe exactly the process that would happen if we are successful getting this application approved.
Be able to share the screen, Andres.
Great. Yeah, I'll share the screen here in a second. So just to introduce myself, Andres Terizo with Watershed Consulting, and we're in Burlington. And we've been working with Ken, the Friends for quite a while now, and we're midway through a project on the Georgia Shore. And I'll share my screen here and just show you a map and some of the field sheets that we've been collecting as a part of that work, because what we were proposing to do for the Swanton and Highgate Shore is actually just replicate that same that same scope. Basically, I think we got a lot of interest from the state on this, and it's really kind of an innovative approach, I think, to really trying to focus down where the problems are, and then, you know, being able to then more have more of a targeted approach to trying to get funding to solve some of these problems. And so let me go ahead and show you. You see that okay?
Yes.
So this is a map of the Georgia Shore, and what we would be proposing to do, you can see on this map there's several of these numbers right here, and each one of those numbers correlates to a shoreline assessment point where we've actually looked at the shoreline and we've done an on-the-ground assessment. And I'll show you the corresponding sheets here in a minute. But the other thing I wanted you to notice is there's certain colors here along the shoreline. And if I zoom in, you can see that there's red, yellow, and green. And what that corresponds to is areas of the lakeshore where there's a low, moderate, or high risk. And so basically what our approach is first to do a desktop assessment. So before we would even go out in the field, we would utilize all the data that's available now from A&R and other places to basically make a determination where the most vulnerable spots are on the lakeshore. And you can see a lot of those areas correlate to a couple different things. First, they correlate to areas where there's development. Secondly, they correlate to areas where there's minimal buffer. So where there is where there's been vegetation cleared up to the lakeshore, and also to some degree ag lands, which are kind of right up close to the lakeshore. And so putting all those factors together, we've basically been able to develop this map. And what this allows us to do is before we even were to go out in the field, we would have an idea where those sensitive locations are, because it's a big shoreline. So we didn't want to just have a scattershot approach. And so, basically what the next step in that would be to create these data sheets. And what we did was we walked the shoreline. We also kayaked the shoreline, and then we had a drone. So you can see a lot of these images are from above, and they're looking at the shoreline, and we're making determination in terms of the amount of shoreline erosion and kind of the quality of the vegetated buffer along the shoreline. So here's an example of where there's kind of a good condition, no erosion problems. You can see we have a nice big buffer greater than 50 feet, and so on, right? So we can really see, using this approach, kind of where the problem areas are, and where things are actually in good shape. And so ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to find where the issues are, and then we're going to be developing in the proposal that we just worked on for the Highgate shore, basically the top rated project we would design to a 30% level. So that's meaning, preliminary engineering. And that would be, and then there would be a plan in place, and basically you could use the document and also the design plan that we're doing to kind of advance funding through the basin program, or also through the state. Are there any questions on that approach, or Kent, anything to add to that? Anything you think I should expand on a little bit?
Yeah, I'd like to add, when I read through that, as far as we've gotten with the project, a really important part to me was that we actually identified about 25 best management practices that can be brought to the area. And that's kind of what I want to emphasize to the select board here, is that we want to bring solutions, and then we are going to reach out to private landowners in the town to help come up with these prioritization of the projects. It's not our job to, we're not hard and fast. This is what's got to be done. This is to work with the community to come up with, where will we be directed to do this? Before we even started with the desktop work in Georgia, we had a great preliminary meeting with the town administrator and the road foreman. And they gave us some really good ideas and places to look, and then we just did a drive-by. This isn't a matter of us going on and doing inspections. We're not really going on to private property. We may, the shots that you saw in that report were taken from a kayak, so we're not really infringing on anybody's property rights by going out and doing this work. And like I said, the idea is to come up with these practices, these improved practices, and to get them in a form that can attract funding for the town as you tick these projects off.
So Vern, I know you had some concerns. Do you have any questions for these gentlemen, or want to talk about this process?
Yep. Hi guys. Andre, I signed on about a minute late. Where are you again?
I'm in Burlington.
That's Burlington is the background. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Burlington, November. That's exactly what.
It's more like St.
They do good work.
Yeah.
They do good work.
St. John.
Good clean water down there. I guess I'm one of the Lakeshore guys down here. I just built a house down here. I brought up the fact, I heard you guys are coming here about a month ago to some of the other landowners down here. They're just worried about, they have privacy concerns. A lot of people live down here, just kind of want to be left alone.
Yep.
They got anything to hide. But the one thing that I've learned, and this is since the whatever act was passed under Governor Shumlin in 2016, I think, Shoreline Protection Act, building down here is not what it used to be. It's a huge expense to build anywhere near the lake now. And I guess one of the things as a new homeowner, landowner down here, I learned a lot, and there was a lot of extra expense with building because all the new regulations with the best practices, and like you guys were talking about, trying to promote putting trees along the lake, letting the grass grow high, that kind of stuff. I think people are concerned that if you show up down here that might be an issue. I know, Kent, you said you're not down here to do inspections.
No.
Obviously, this stuff's going to get presented to A&R, and let's say they see something they don't like that's outside of the Shoreline Protection Act. I think people are worried about maybe possible enforcement actions for something they weren't aware of or was maybe grandfathered before 2015, whatever that was passed. I think that's one of the big worries down here.
Well, I can assure you that in my 13 years of working with the Friends of Northern Lake Champlain, I've never registered a complaint or worked with a regulator. We're strictly working on the educational aspect, just like you were referring to, that, it was as a result of that Lakeshore legislation of 2014. And that's, which has turned into a statewide all-in treatment of a lot of different land projects. But I can assure you that our approach is to work with people and to look for solutions is what we're trying to do. We're not going to call in the regulators. We work with the tactical basin planner who is part of DEC, but that is not the regulatory branch. We do not have any direct contact with the regulatory branch. It would not, and we are really trying to keep that separated out and have been very successful in doing that. And the idea is to put better practices on the ground and to bring funding to the town as you develop your plan, which, it's very apparent as I drive and I see the work that has been accomplished, on the roads. I look at Mill Hill Road, I look at the new structures underneath the parking lot at the Highgate School, and I think the town is really, doing what they can afford to do. The thing that really motivates me is 4 or 5 years ago, there was money found from when the causeway was taken out, or when the new bridge was built between West Taunton and Alberg. Well, at that time, there was money that put aside to remove that whole causeway, but it was held up by a study, and then it could be reviewed every 9 years to remove more of the causeway. Well, the way it worked out, it was going to take 36 years and about 10 times as much money to actually get that causeway removed. And in the meantime, there was $4 million left in escrow that went back into VTrans that could be used anywhere within 50 miles of that old bridge. Well, we think about that, and that 50 miles goes all the way down into Chittenden County, which has a very well developed stable of water improvement projects. And we don't have that in Franklin County. And we've been trying to build that up so we can use some of that pot of money. But see, we got put behind by that process. And this is one of the ways we can catch up.
If I can just add a little bit to that, just to give you my background, we've done many master plans now in the state. We've done one for St. Albans, we've done one for a lot of the other communities, and it's really where the state is going in terms of directing funding, and it's all I can just assure you, like, that's a very common concern that people have. It's always a concern, and I think it's a very legitimate concern, obviously, but I think that we're definitely really just trying to look for to kind of shine a light on areas priority, that are a priority when there's a need. And we're also really trying to not just solve water quality problems, but we're looking to solve other issues that that may really burden people, like a flooding issue or an issue that's, where people are, where their land is being impacted. And, trying to direct the funding to not only address like the state's concern to the water quality, but also try to fix some of these community issues as well, at the same time. And that's always our goal. So, just to echo what Kent was saying there.
Just a lot of people here were affected by Irene. Part of my lot was lost some square footage due to Irene and wave action, quite a bit of it actually. That has not been built back, but I know there's some landowners down the road here, same thing. Is that something you guys can help out with reclaiming some of the land, putting some riprap in, getting funding for that so they don't have to pay for it out of pocket?
Potentially, yes. I mean, the state looks at, there's kind of some newer techniques that are more based on bioengineering kind of plant techniques, and sometimes in conjunction with things like riprap, but also having like a green element. And the state is like really excited now about trying to direct some money towards those kind of things. So like, for instance, having riprap at the wave line and then kind of grading back the slope and maybe having more of a planted slope above. Those are the kind of things that we would be looking at, as a part of this work, to identify what those areas are and then including them in the plan so we could try to get some funding for them.
Okay. The one other thing I saw, I like your video, the drone shots you have there. You are going to get in touch with homeowners, I hope, and tell them you can use the drone, because I know there's some folks around there that if they saw the drone flying out over the beach, they might get up some ski shot and
shoot it down.
Some pretty good duck hunters in the area.
For sure.
So you have to be careful.
Where I live, there's a lot of duck hunters, and they look at it as a target of opportunity if the drone's 50 feet off their beach. So, yeah.
Can use the kayak then instead.
Yep. That'll work. All right. Thanks, guys. I got no other questions.
Does anyone else have any other questions? So what you're looking for from the town of Highgate is a letter of support.
I've already submitted one.
Okay, yes.
Kent could probably verify that. I think we submitted one. Vern was absent at that meeting and he had questions. So friends offered to come in and just speak generally to the board.
Okay.
And Heidi invited me earlier, but I was out of town and wasn't able to get in at an earlier time. So that's why we're, another 2 or 4 weeks later in the process.
It's not a problem. Gosh knows that COVID has put the cramp on all of our styles. But thank you both for joining us and giving us an idea of the kind of work that you do, and that you are not meant to be a threat to homeowners.
That's for sure.
Before I sign off, I would really like to thank the town for their appropriation this year and continuing to support our work. So thanks very much for that. And like you said, this COVID has had quite an effect on our revenue generating ability, and it really helps this year.
All right, you're very welcome.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay. Shelley, are you back with us?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm back.
All righty.
I'm going to be quick. Wendy has lost her microphone ability, so I'm going to play double duty as long as I can. Any questions on the check warrant?
Looks like you were very busy.
Yeah.
Yes. Typically, yes. Okay, I'm going to keep moving. Wendy sent me a list here. I think that was the only thing I've really got for you. Do you guys have anything else for me?
No. Would you like a motion to sign the check warrant at a later date?
That would be great.
Okay, so can I have a motion to sign the check warrants at a later date?
So moved.
Second.
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, Wendy said if you could approve her minutes.
Okay. So has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes? And are there any questions or concerns? All right. Can we have a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting?
So moved.
Okay. Richard, are you seconding? Well, you're gonna have to take your mute off, Richard.
Go ahead. You're all set, Richard.
I'm all set?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So are you seconding that?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, next on Wendy's list was voting for Australian ballot or not voting for Australian ballot at town meeting. Franklin did vote at their last select board meeting this week. They are going to do the Australian ballot for COVID reasons. Sheldon will be deciding this at their next meeting and will probably be doing the same. Swanton already votes Australian, but she would like a decision made this meeting at the latest next meeting because we'd like to put together a mass mailing for all of the registered voters sooner than later so they know what's going on.
What are the thoughts of the board?
I think it.
Just came up, sorry, Richard, at the last meeting, I'm in favor of Australian ballot for COVID reasons, and then maybe possibly afterwards too, if it's more of a voter turnout, which I think it would.
Okay. Richard?
I'm in favor for this year, but I want to make sure. I know some people mentioned it to me. They want to make sure that we only do it for 1 year.
Richard, we only can do it for the 1 year.
I know, but people, I understand what you're saying, but other people, I've talked to people and they just said, make sure you bring that up.
I just want you to also be aware, by making this decision, it would be for all of 2021. So let's say a budget goes down, Wendy and I have to sit in the polls another day. That would also automatically be an Australian ballot vote.
Okay.
Okay.
Bruce, are you able to connect with us?
I can hear everything.
Oh, we can hear you too.
Gotcha.
Guess the internet isn't as choked up or something.
So what are your thoughts about Australian ballot?
I think we have to.
Okay. Kyle?
Feel the same way Bruce does. I really don't like the idea of it, but I don't think we have any choice.
Yeah. Okay. So who would like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Wendy, you have your answer.
Okay, so Wendy and I will start putting together a letter to go out to the residents. If there's any specific language you would like in there, please get with us
Okay.
sooner than later. But I think we can put something together and send it out to you for approval before we mail it.
Okay.
We'll at least get everything on the radar sooner than later, and people can be knowing to look at our informational meeting as the go-to meeting if they want some info before voting.
Okay, perfect.
Sharon, are they going to have an informational meeting before?
Just said that. Keith. Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, Keith, it'll probably still be via Zoom.
Right.
But yes, we will absolutely be holding an informational meeting.
Not the night before, right?
No, no.
It's usually the select board meeting that's regularly scheduled before town meeting.
Okay.
Since I've been here, that's how it's been scheduled.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. We also will have the town reports out. I spoke with Repro. I like getting the books out as early as possible to give people time to study them. I'm hoping to have them in hands of residents by February 1st, as years pass. I think that gives them a month. So we're doing everything we can with what we've got.
Okay.
The last thing Wendy has on hers is just a reminder, Deck the Homes applications are due back by December 7th. It must be a paper application, so reminder, there is a drop box in the back of our building, and that can be used for anything and everything, not just ballots. So if you have an application that you would like to drop off at the town, email it, take a screenshot of it, text it, drop it at the drop box. Many ways to get that into us.
So Deck the Halls, or Deck the Highgate Homes is a Christmas light contest. So we're looking for the best, the most outrageous, the biggest power bill electric light display we can get. Last year we had a blast. We went around and saw all of the entries. This year, frankly, sucks all the way around. So get in the spirit of Christmas and show your neighbors what you can do. So on that note, we would also like to have a Christmas parade this year. And we'd like to have a Christmas parade that goes all the way around town, not just Main Street, but all over. So the children can look out their front windows in their jammies and wave to the trucks and the cars and all the vehicles that go by and have a little excitement and a little fun.
Sharon,
Yes.
on that, I went to the rec meeting, while I Zoomed the rec meeting the other night.
Yeah.
And their question was, who's gonna spearhead this? And they wondered if the fire department, I said maybe we would get our parade committee together and try to spear it ourselves. Are you in agreement with that, or?
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea, Richard. And we're looking for entries for the parade as well. So everybody and anybody can join. It needs to be a motorized vehicle because it's going to be, several, 15, 20 miles. So don't plan on walking. Don't plan on pulling a wagon because that's not going to cut it. But any nice Christmas decorations, Santa, happy holidays, Hanukkah, anything you want for a holiday spirit. Keith, how are you about helping spearhead this Christmas parade?
Yeah.
Come on, bud, you can do better than that.
Yeah, I'm willing to help.
All right, fantastic. The fire department's also going to reach out to you, and they want to decorate the park as well.
Great.
So let's show the surrounding towns what we got. All right. So we'll put together a meeting of the Memorial Day committee and make it the Christmas parade committee. And if anyone wants to join, they can reach out to Keith, myself, Richard, Tom Conley, or Ty Schwarnier. All right. So moving on. Heidi.
Just before I start, Richard, would you mind if I put you on mute again? I think there's a little bit of background noise coming from you. And when you want to speak, you can just hit the space bar.
Okay.
And it will unmute you. Okay. Okay, so if you need to speak, just touch the space bar and we'll be able to hear you. First thing on my list was the municipal roads general permit. It's time for the towns to file a report. So I put that in your packet. It happens over a few phases. This is the first step. This is a required report, and we pay a $240 administrative fee. So this form was in there for Sharon to sign. If you approve it, I will bring it to her for signature.
Has everyone had a chance to look at that?
Yes.
Okay. Can we have a motion to sign that?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good. And between now and June, we have to pay $1,350, which is our allocation towards that pool that works towards repairing road issues that affect water quality. So the other thing that needs to be signed is I put the notice of award in your packet. You were awarded $660,000 from the municipal stormwater mitigation program for the Macy Road fix. So we've talked about a gap. I am working on a couple more applications to help with that. But to accept this grant, you would have to sign the commitment form that was enclosed in your packet. So if you approve that, I will bring that to Sharon for signature.
Now that is separate from the brick program. Okay.
Yeah, so this was the program. We originally got $734,000 in 2017-18. We just reapplied for $1 million and we got 660,000. So we're way short. So this would just be to commit the funding that they just awarded you.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, do we have a motion to sign?
So moved.
Do I have-
Second.
Okay. Heidi or Kyle, was anyone able to reach out to the Youngs with the information of the $660,000 award?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure they were kept in the loop.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to talk about your other options for that project as well. So
Hang on just a minute, Heidi. I don't think I asked for all those in favor. So all those in favor
sorry.
say aye.
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 Sorry about that.
My apologies. So I sent you late after the packet went out some applications some forms that I have filled out for the town to be able to apply to the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program through the Department of Public Safety. This is also an opportunity to get some more funds for your Macy Road project. So it's federal money, so it is many of the same federal forms you filled out for USDA and the other opportunities that we've had. And we would be filling a $972,146 gap in your project by applying for a $729,109 grant and providing $243,036 in match.
And that's on top of the other two matches.
That's correct. Yes, you already have 300, let me find the paper, over 300 in your commitment of match between the previous two grants. And this would be another 243. So you're looking at over 500,000 still in local match.
Wow.
Kelly, can you remind us what we have set aside now?
For the Macy Road, I know we put
Yes.
just that 180.
Quick second here.
183.7 is what we.
And 50 there, so 233.5. But of course, we've been spending that on our match
Consultant.
for those projects.
Okay. So at least $270,000. Okay. Well,
Seems to be some background noise.
yeah.
It isn't me this time.
It's Bruce, he's having a party.
Thank you. That's not what I need to do.
Just to let y'all know, I did reach out to Franklin last night at their select board meeting. Lisa apparently will be putting a letter together from Franklin. I reached out to Sheldon. I need to send them an email with the request of what we're looking for. So I have started that process. Unfortunately, right now, my work is extremely busy. But I will get to the rescue squads, fire departments, local farmers. I want to have enough of these letters that'll choke a horse when we send them in, so.
I know that Sioux Cota has reached out to MVR and I think the Swanton Village Fire for their support as well.
Excellent.
So thank you for doing that, Kyle.
We've asked them all to hold on to them, either that or send them into to Wendy or Heidi, and submit them all at once, so they're not just coming in sporadically.
Right. Yep.
Thank you, Kyle.
Oh, you're welcome, buddy.
There is an opportunity with this HMGP grant to submit letters of support. So they could be enclosed right with that application.
I'm in with that.
I don't know if there's a limit. Some grants limit the number of, but we'll try and put them to good use. For
Send as many as we can with that. Send the rest with our legislators.
Heidi?
Yes.
When's the deadline for submitting this grant application?
December, I think that there's, so the funds that we're applying for, I believe are still some of the leftover funds that were specific to Vermont from our past disasters. So they only have a limited amount of funds. So I'm trying to get it in as soon as possible so we can hopefully get something earmarked for Highgate.
Well, a shortfall of 270,000 versus a shortfall of 170,000 plus our 500,000 match from the other pieces of our grants. happy and get. Speaking of that, I did reach out to one of the landowners when we were talking about rerouting the road. That particular landowner has absolutely no interest in working with the town on a project like that. Considers that prime ag land, and says that the only way you'll get it is by eminent domain, and if you force eminent domain, he will fight you in court as long as he can. So, not a great option. But that is another thing ticked off our list that we've attempted.
Hey, question, please. Are you there? Hey,
Richard, I'm there. I need permission to speak. May I have permission to answer you?
can she talk, Sharon?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Lisa, have you been out to this Macy slide and seen what it is?
Funny that you should ask that, Richard, because that just came up in discussion with another representative yesterday that we should go on a field trip and look at the situation.
Yeah.
I don't know about the other representative because time is very limited for him. He's got some constraints that are going to be on him in a couple of weeks that he won't be able to be out in public. However, I should be available and I would be happy to look at it. I'm free tomorrow if anybody would like to take me to look at what's going on. Or it would have to be after Thanksgiving.
Well,
I will. Go ahead.
Are you going to take her, Heidi?
Absolutely, yes. I have an appointment with the HVAC maintenance guy tomorrow at 9, and I will be free after that.
Okay. I could probably, do you have any idea how long it would take, Heidi, for your appointment with the HVAC?
I would say probably an hour.
Okay. Let me get back to you to see if I could be there by 10 tomorrow. And if not, we'll arrange an alternate time, but I will email you. Thank you very much. And I'll ask Representative Savage if he happens to be free as well. So I will email you. Thanks for asking, Richard. And just to let you all know, we are setting up a meeting with Heidi to address this in depth and understand the scope of the problem for you all. So we're on it. And I know Kyle's going to have a pile of letters for us. Thanks.
Thanks, Lisa.
Yes, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule. We appreciate it, and we appreciate the updates that you send us as well.
Well, it's my pleasure. And I actually have been wanting to get to the Macy Road for probably a year now, and I have not done it. And that's kind of embarrassing. So it's about time I get myself out there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, on that note, I just wanted to touch on the other opportunity that Sharon mentioned earlier. It's nothing that we have to think about at the moment, but the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant is another opportunity. Perhaps when we get away from, when we're less focused on doing one spot, we could apply for scoping funds for that area to look at some real numbers, not just the, the ballpark estimates that I gave you as some alternative options, but to have some engineering consulting services to say what is feasible there as a more comprehensive fix. And the idea to be able to do that with some stakeholders from adjoining towns is very appealing, in that you'd have more of a regional approach to resolving it, and maybe something else could come to light. So that's on the table in the future as a way that the town could be a little more proactive rather than reactive to the damage that the Missisquoi is doing to your infrastructure.
Okay. Lisa, while we have you, do you have any updates about COVID from the governor's office? Any great information? Any inspiration?
Well, Sharon, thank you for asking. I wish I did. I listen to the news conferences just like everybody else does, and I go, oh, okay, so that's what we're doing today. So no, I really don't. I think we're going to have to continue in this remote format for as many meetings as possible in the foreseeable future, until this goes away, and it may not go away. It may have to wait until people are vaccinated, at least vulnerable populations are vaccinated. So I do know that everybody in the administration is trying to make this if it's going to be our new normal, to make it as normal as possible and find ways to connect people so that we don't feel so isolated from each other and from the decision-making processes. So I know the legislature were working really hard. The staff is working very hard to make it somewhat normal for us when we go back, even if we go back by computer, that we'll be able to virtually bump into each other in virtual hallways like we would do at the State House, and be able to carry on conversations more easily with each other. And I think it's just everybody has to get used to a new way of communicating, whether it be by email or text or picking up the phone and talking to each other rather than face-to-face conversations. So that's hard for a lot of us to get used to. We're getting better at it, but for now, I think the thing is to just keep your towns as safe as possible. And from what I'm hearing, you know, just by virtue of the fact that you've voted to allow Australian ballot at town meeting, I think you're thinking ahead and doing it very wisely. So I really wish I had a crystal ball, but I don't. But we're going to make the best of this. And please know that you all can come to me anytime. I am usually pretty accessible. You can reach me, and I am in the phone book. Thanks.
Thank you. And we know the governor has a hard job making these decisions that are not popular with the public, but we do know that he's trying to protect us, and we're trying to do the same thing for our community members.
Yeah, thank you for acknowledging that, because I think the governor's got a tough job, and it's really hard for him to impose all of these rules on people, but he's doing the best he can. So thanks for acknowledging that, and thank you for all your hard work in keeping people safe.
Well, we're doing our best, but we do appreciate that these are hard times, but hopefully with the vaccines that they're testing, we'll have a nice bright future ahead of us. Okay, sorry Heidi, I kind of sidetracked you there, but what else do you have for us?
Well, I just wanted to clarify where we landed on the HMGP application. I would appreciate you all letting me know if you want me to proceed with that.
Okay, what's the alphabet soup stand for?
Hazard Mitigation Grant Program.
Thank you.
And that's the numbers that I just mentioned before. We had a shortfall of 972,000, so we're applying for 75% of that from that program, and then we would have a 25% match.
So thoughts from the board?
What choice do we have?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's.
Need to ask for.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see other alternatives at the moment.
Richard? Push your space bar. Thank
There
you.
you go.
There.
You know, I go along with Bruce and Kyle.
Okay, Vern?
Ditto, Bruce, Kyle, and Richard.
Yeah, I'm afraid we find ourselves in a peculiar position where we're short on time and short on money and running out of options quickly.
And
So
the discouraging thing is this is one of 2 slides that have to be addressed soon, and we're trying to scratch to get the one done, and so I'm just trying to figure out how in the world we're going to get the other ones fixed. But one at a time.
yeah, let's just take them in priority of worst first.
I would like to note that there was a slide just upstream 20 years ago. Now we're trying to deal with this one, and quick as we're done with this one, somehow there's going to be another one in the next stretch downstream. This is going to be an ongoing situation for Lord knows how long.
Well, we have 3 active ones right now, so
Right.
there's 2 more just up the road, less than 1,000 feet together. I mean, there's 2 more, so.
Somehow we've got to get I don't know what to say other than the powers that be to understand that this is going to be an ongoing situation. Somebody needs to, with enough expertise and knowledge, somebody needs to come up with a bigger plan about how to deal with this situation.
Right. I think that's part of that brick grant from FEMA that Heidi was talking about earlier, that maybe in scope the whole road as opposed to just one 300-foot section like we're caught doing now. But I think that'll be a proactive approach, but also many years in the making.
I'll make the motion that we have her sign that, or that we have Sharon sign that.
Okay, do I have a second? Any more discussion?
Just one thing that I need to add is that in addition to those forms, I also need to come up with a benefit cost analysis saying that it is worth their money to invest in. So I believe that between the engineering and the plans that we have to date, I may be able to accomplish that without any assistance, but I may need to go to our engineer to have their assistance creating a BCA. It's a very specific format. And so if I have to do that, I may have to get your permission to pay them a little bit more, unless they're willing to include that in the work that they're already doing on the Macy Road design. So I intend to approach them, and I should be able to tell you at the next meeting if there will be any additional expense in creating the benefit cost analysis to submit with this grant.
Okay.
I got it.
All right. So all those in favor?
Or-
Wait a minute.
I just thought about something as we're going along trying to get the money for this and working hard on doing that. When engineers come up with the plans, like when we submit it in the package, does that also include the permitting process from the state, or is that something that we're going to have to do separately? Or the engineers doing that? It just this way, when we finally got the green light, we got the plan, we got the money. I don't want to be held up by permits.
Well, DeWolf Engineering, we're still in a contract with them, and they are going to take us right up to construction bid documents. So the permitting, etc. Those construction documents are then going to be what we need to hire the consultants. And I believe that there's some additional expense in that estimate that they gave us, the 2.3 million. And in that scope, we built in the construction inspection expense to have a resident engineer on site, making sure that the contractor is in compliance with the plan that was approved. So that's what all of those additional expenses are, is permitting, inspection, and all of the other things. So this amount should be start to finish. And as I mentioned in some of the paperwork, there's a possibility that we might be able to finish it for less, because some of those categories are just calculated on a percentage of the total construction project, but they may not pan out to be that much because it's a huge project, but it's only 300 feet. So it's possible that it will be completed in a relatively short construction season, and construction inspection may not be as much as we've calculated. So there is possibility that we will be able to do it for slightly less, but the contingency is a contingency for a reason, and we don't know what prices of material will be. We don't know, how available contractors will be that are capable of doing that work. So there's a lot of ifs, a lot of wiggle room there.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Vern, are you eyeing or abstaining?
Oh, no, I said aye.
Okay, sorry, missed it. Okay. Heidi, what else?
I just briefly wanted to touch on some of our other projects. I know that the select board is going to have to make some decisions during budgeting, but I wanted you to know that I am still attempting to create the necessary online applications to do some of the other funding for your airport infrastructure projects. And still trying to connect with the state to see if they will be assisting us with the construction and at what level that they will be able to support it. So then you would have some numbers to make a decision with. So one of the things that I'm attempting to do is get into the USDA Rural Development RD Apply program. And I sent you an email, Sharon. You would have to authorize me to initiate that application as the select board chair. So you may have already gotten an email from them saying, is this
Yeah,
okay to
no, I've
offer?
checked a couple of times and I haven't received any messages by phone either, so I'm still in a holding pattern.
Okay, I will check in on that and see when you can expect to have that.
Okay.
And the same with the EDA grant. You're unable to apply until you ever came to the point where you put it to a public vote. But you do have the consulting funding, and Wayne Elliott is ready to help start putting that together. So it is something that we'd like to be able to give you some solid numbers so that you can make a decision how to proceed.
Okay. All right, anything else?
No, that is it for me.
Okay. So a couple of things under select board. Our new animal control officer has raised the question of should we pay or should someone pay an adoption fee if we have a dog and we rehome it? So if you want a dog from the animal control officer, that you'd pay an adoption fee.
I'm gonna let Wendy give me a text and let you know her thoughts while
Yes.
thinking and discussing.
So my thought is I'm grateful that someone would take a homeless or abused or neglected or you fill in the blank dog. And then I'd like to see that it be a non-fee process.
Sharon, I'm thinking the same way you are.
Wendy agrees. Our budget covers any costs for boarding animals or ACO. What we charge people, any costs to board them and or rehome them, so the be free.
Okay.
It seems to me that, you know, it's not been a problem in the past doing things as they've been done. So I guess I don't see any need to start adding more fees. At least in the near future.
Okay. Kyle?
I'm not comfortable with an adoption fee at all.
Okay. Vern?
Has there been an issue with having to keep animals, I guess, in our possession for a long time, or did it go pretty quick?
No, we've been very fortunate. Our former ACO was very adept at finding homes or shelters or rescues that would take the animals that had been taken into custody in Highgate. The last 2 dogs that were roaming town that had been taken into custody, within 5 days, we were able to take both of them to Addison County to their Humane Society. And they were both extremely well taken care of, and a private donation was given to the Humane Society, and in grateful response to them taking them without having to charge us a great deal of money. So
like Shelley said, we have money in the budget to house the animals temporarily, and I see no sense in putting a fee on somebody who wants to take the animal off our hands.
okay. So Heidi, can you let her know that we would prefer to keep it as a free adoption? Okay. So it's been brought to our attention by a local person about the Rollo Road. Heidi sent out some information to the board. Do we have any questions or concerns about that project?
Well, I personally think that that project is over and done with. It was signed off. But going forward, we need to have some type of policy set in place for these grants. I personally feel that the engineer should be there the day the contractors are given the tour. I spoke with Butch, and he was asked questions he simply couldn't answer because he's not the engineer. He didn't design it. That's number one. I also think, after talking with Bruce, that same engineer that designed it should be the one signing off on the project. Because again, you've got Butch, he's not the engineer. We're putting a lot of weight on his shoulders that it isn't his job. It's not his job. There was mistakes made on that process. I don't believe it was done intentionally by any means, but mistakes were made. And quite honestly, I think that we owe Doug Roll an apology for what happened. He's quite upset about it, and I think he's got a right to be upset about it. However, he's not upset to the point where he's going to hire a lawyer or anything, but and so I think we need to put some safeguards in place so that doesn't happen again.
Right, and what you're talking about is to provide a fair and clear bid process.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That across the board, it's apples for apples. That every contractor is bidding on exactly the same thing.
May I just add
Yes.
a little bit? I was involved in the process, and as you saw, all of the applicants, all of the interested bidders were given the exact same information. They all attended a site visit where we were able to answer questions, and there were site visit notes that were forwarded to them all. They all had the same information. And the engineer that did create the design was the one that did sign off that it met the intent of his plan, as well as the grant administrator, Bethany Remmers, the transportation planner from NRPC. They both signed off that that was a water quality project that was done very well. So I am not clear on what the issues were, and I'm not clear what the shortcomings in the project were as far as what we applied for, what we shared with the contractors. I believe that what was agreed to was performed.
Well, bottom line, there was 8 bids for this project. 2 of the 8 bids did not provide traffic control. There was no dollar amount given for traffic control. If you would deduct the traffic control from one particular bid, it would have been low bid and would have been lower than the bid that we accepted. So if you go back and look at that, that's exactly where I'm going. That's where I'm saying it was not done apples for apples. As far as quality work, that's not for me to say. And if the engineer signed off, that's what I think should be done. And that's that. But it needs to be a detailed bid. Everybody's bidding on the same thing, because in this process, that didn't happen.
And I think that everyone knew that going into it. They understood that they were not selecting the lowest bid. They came to the select board, and the select board approved that recommendation from Butch that that was the contractor that he was interested in working with. And that's why I sent you that link to the select board meeting where that happened, the video.
Yeah, I understand that, but what I'm saying is the contractor that received the bid, that got the bid, that received the job, I'm not saying anything about the contractor, but there was $0 put for traffic control. The other contractors knew that there was supposed to be some type of traffic control in place, and 6 of the 8 had a dollar amount for that traffic control.
Correct.
They were not apples for apples. And although I realize that you don't have to go with the lowest bid, I personally if you have a taxpayer who has a business, would lean towards picking that contractor over another one, especially if they're low bid. This contractor is not complaining because he lost out because he was higher bid. He's upset because it wasn't done fairly. And it wasn't. I've got the bids, I've got the blocks where all that was done, where each block was checked off for deductions, tree removal, and it wasn't done fairly. As simple as that. And we could chew this all night, but we need to have checks and balances in place so this doesn't happen again. Maybe we need to pump the brakes on all the grants that are coming in and make sure that we have all our I's dotted and T's crossed before we go to another grant. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think too that all bids need to be opened at the select board meetings, and they need to be public so that everyone is on the same page and that everyone can ensure that they are fair and judged exactly the same. I think that would help part of the problem.
Yes, I think you're right, Sharon.
You know, that way there's no guessing because it's already on tape.
Sharon, I completely agree with you. I just want to make sure the bids are being thoroughly looked at before voted on.
Correct.
And I'm not saying that they're not, but in the instance of the fire truck, you were given binders of information. And a decision was still made very quickly.
Yes.
So I'm
We've lost you, Shelley. But I understand, I think the gist of what you're saying, and that sometimes those bids, if it isn't exactly clear what's needed, that we need to take more time and more effort into making sure that we know exactly what we're looking for so that we can make sure that it's fair and equal for everyone.
I think that those are all definitely laudable goals, and they are the intent of each process. And I would just like to add that there was a committee that looked at it prior to coming to the select board with a recommendation, and that was Richard as our highway commissioner, Richard Noel as our transportation advisory committee representative, and Butch. And I think perhaps Nick was involved in that too. So they reviewed it and they did bring those points to the select board who made the decision. And I think that all of those points were a part of their presentation.
Kyle,
Yes.
I've gone back on that, and I remember when we sat down as a committee that I thought we dropped the road stuff out of there, and then went from that. And I thought he just missed it by a little bit. That's what I got out of it, but it wasn't.
He missed it by a little bit.
Yeah.
He had almost $9,000 in traffic control in that bid.
We took traffic. I thought we took his traffic control off.
If you took your traffic control off, he would have been lower bid.
I don't
The
think
numbers
so.
that I'm seeing, unless I'm not understanding what I'm looking at.
Okay. And I just.
It's possible that I'm not, and we'll sit down and somebody can educate me on what I'm looking at to make sure that I'm not misspeaking.
Maybe I missed it, but I thought we took that, didn't we, Heidi?
I can tell you, Richard, that I did speak with Richard Noel.
Yeah.
And it is my understanding from him that, yes, they, when they made that decision, they did not include the amount for traffic control.
Right.
And that there was some concern about whether that was too big a job for the local contractor.
Yes.
Now,
I
I'm
think
saying that secondhand.
I think the resolution to this, in my mind, I don't know if we have like a written protocol about bidding on road construction jobs. I know we've got a bid policy, but I'm thinking it might be helpful to have a protocol written out that gives us a checklist of things that need to be in place and information that needs to be provided by everybody, whoever bids. And if somebody doesn't include that information, well, they're kind of automatically disqualified themselves.
Okay.
We got the job done. It got signed off on. We have a citizen of the town that we probably need to make amends with and just do better in the future.
We also got to do something better in the future, Bruce, is that we need, before we ask for bids and stuff, we got to make sure we got the money there. In this topic here, that was a big thing too. We had bids, but we weren't even sure if we had the money.
That's correct.
You know,
I remember that.
You know, I just think this whole project was, I don't know if it was a learning curve for us or what, but it didn't go the way that it should have went.
Well, we're doing more and more of these things because we have to. And most of them have gone really well. So if it seems like we made a mistake of some sort on one of them. And well, okay, I'm perfectly happy to say I made a mistake, and I will be sure to do better with whatever comes up next.
I just would like to just remind everyone that that was a grant that we had applied for, a grant and aid. Those are typically not high dollar grants, and we use our forced labor as our match so that we're able to do some of the things that we need to do, such as roadside ditching and removing of shoulders. And because of the backlog of work that had happened for multiple reasons, our Public Works Department asked to put that out to bid. That's why we were not in a position to have $50,000 to do the project. We had a much smaller amount, which would have been fine if the Public Works Department had done it. And we put it out to bid to see what someone else would be willing to do it for. So it was a different scenario than we usually follow.
I think going back to what Kyle said about apples to apples on this, and what Bruce said about having a checklist, I use checklists to work all the time. At a minimum, if you have a job, if you got to dig 4 holes somewhere, then we need to put out a bid specific in a checklist that says, all right, here's the 4 holes you should dig, here's the criteria, here's how deep you got to be. If somebody then submits a bid that they only dig 3 holes, you know, on the bid, kind of like maybe the lack of traffic, not enforcement or whatever it was called, traffic flow management, then that's where we need to, the checklist, I think, will really help. So you can do apples to apples. And like Al said, if they don't meet the minimum criteria, then we cannot consider it a bid in the future.
Kyle, what would you like to see happen?
Well, I don't think anybody did anything on purpose. I don't think anything was done. I think it was exactly what they said. The project was rushed. I think mistakes were made, like Bruce said. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I just think that possibly I'm not looking at the numbers right. But if I look at the numbers the way I'm understanding the numbers, and it's not always about low bid, it just seems like this wasn't done fairly. And that's all. I've talked to the contractor. He's upset about it. But like I said, he just wants to see it done fairly. That's all. And in his eyes, it wasn't done fairly. And I know I've apologized to him, but I guess what was done is done. Let's just move on and just try to do better in the future. That's all.
Well, I'm, if you want, I am happy to apologize to Doug Rollo as the chair of the select board, to say that it's our apologies that this did not seem fair or appropriate, and that we will indeed try to be more transparent and more checklist oriented and more fair and more apples to apples, so that people don't feel like they are being treated unfairly.
I don't have a problem with that at all, but just to make sure that I haven't misspoken, I would like to go over those numbers with somebody who is more experienced to make sure that I'm reading it properly, that I read this correctly. I have no problem with the apology, but if I'm misreading something and have the incorrect information, we shouldn't apologize if we didn't do anything wrong. But just from my mind's eye, from what I've seen, yes, I would agree that we should apologize to him. I know.
Okay, so I guess if you wanted to go over those things with Butch and Richard Noel, seems to have a good handle on that. If you wanted to go over that with them, I think they'd be happy to.
Okay.
Okay, if I sit in on that?
No, Richard, I don't want you there.
Okay.
Of course I want you there.
Okay, does anyone from the select board have anything else?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Dwayne Trombley. Sack Drive. I heard everything's been done now. I checked with Butch yesterday, and he said if the board approved it, he wouldn't have any trouble starting now. He said he's been at it for a lot of years, and the older fella, he said if we approved it, he wouldn't have any trouble starting it when we have snow.
Heidi, can you gather I want to say Mylar, but the paper copies of his permit and what he was required to do for that permit?
Yes, I can. And when Richard stopped in to see me the other day, we pulled out the file, and several months ago, we had sent Dwayne a letter saying that he needed to do some work on the road, and then the fire truck and the town truck and the school bus would have to test it. And it's my understanding that all of that has happened. So I can put all that information in an email to you.
Yeah, if you can, and then put it on the agenda for the next meeting, then we can make a decision. Does that sound fair, Richard?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. We won't ask Kyle because, you know, he lives on that road.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay. The last thing I want to say is we are getting stricter regulations for COVID. So I would ask people to, again, check on your neighbors, make sure everybody's okay. If somebody in the town needs assistance, please direct them to the town office, the town phone number, one of the select board members. We want to make sure everybody's taken care of. So with that, be safe and take care of yourselves and your families.
Sharon,
Yes?
if anybody needs masks, you can direct them to go to the ambulance bay, the Square Rescue. We have them for the public.
Perfect. Keith,
Yes,
how's MVR doing with COVID? Are they
we are all up to date. We
taking
just,
care of us?
we got pretty much everybody taken care of, and we hope we're gonna keep everybody safe. We've got new masks coming, and everybody in our squad is doing fine.
Great. Keep up the good work. Okay, so Heidi, do we need executive? I know the rec does not have their recommendation for hiring.
I have no issues.
Okay.
To bring.
Board, is there anything you need executive for?
no,
Okay,
Nope.
then if everyone's all set, I would call for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you all very much. I know this stinks going to Zoom, but you're all doing a great job.
You too.
Good night.
Good night.
Kevin, Gary.
Stay well all.
You too.